Hello friends, welcome to Knitography Farm. I'm Patricia and I'm coming to you just outside the city of Trondheim in the middle of Norway. It has been a very long time since I've had the possibility to sit down and record my video journal. I have been going through a transitional phase in my life, and I've also been home for the past months supporting my daughter through a very challenging time in her life. But now that I am on the farm every single day, I have the possibility to return to my sharing and connecting with you once again about the history and stories of traditional knitting here in this region of Norway. It is the most beautiful springtime I ever remember in all of my nearly 23 years here in Norway. I have been taking full advantage of getting up early, getting the chores on the farm completed so that I could escape into the forest with my coffee and a bit of sock knitting. It's just been so wonderful and energizing to just sit there for an hour or so and just listen to the mountain stream and the snow melt and just seeing the forest come alive again. It's just wonderful to observe how it wakes up and everything turns green and the sun returns to us after so many months of darkness. I have a lot to share with you. It's a bit overwhelming to get started again, but as I say, I feel now that I will have the possibility to really be consistent and share on a more regular basis. I'm sure that it'll get less fumbly and I'll also be more confident. But I have been working on a series of Opal Sock yarn, the Monet Impressionistic Artist Collection. And I was so fortunate that my friend Karina in Germany helped me to acquire this collection. This yarn is in a 8 skein collection. She has a friend that has a little yarn shop, and she popped in and happened to have the collection, so she sent it to me, and since the beginning of April I have just been knitting my way through these impressionistic paintings by Monet. They've lifted the colors from the paintings to create this sock yarn. So one of the first ones that I finished was this one, and I'm just going to pop this onto one of my Selbu sock blockers. Many of you know that my work here on the farm is creating my designs out of the birch wood that we fell here on our farm, and this is my Selbu sock design. I create it all by hand, from the tree right to the finished product. And they are sealed. They are completely natural without any glues or lacquers, and they're sealed with bee butter that I also create. I grow lavender here, and I harvest the beeswax from the 2 beehives that we have within the forest, and I create a seal that takes care of them and conditions them. And so this is my first Opal Sock. This is one of his paintings that represent the bridges over the lily pond. That's really famous. And this is just my vanilla sock pattern. I've created this pattern myself. It's the best fitting sock for my foot, and it is a 1x1 ribbing, 3 centimeters, and then the leg is depending on who I'm knitting them for, and I like a 5-inch leg. And then I have a heel flap and a slip stitch heel flap and a gusset that I knit, and then I have this rounded toe that I always knit. I'm not a really exciting sock knitter or an adventurous sock knitter. That sounds very odd because I am such a mitten knitter, but I need to really focus on doing some stranded colored work socks in my future. I've done a few pairs, but I really just, these are my go-to, the vanilla sock. So the other sock that I'm working on is another yarn in that collection, and this is the whereas that one was the bridge over the lily pond that Monet painted, this is the lily pond colorway. And I don't know how well this is going to show because I'm right in the middle, but maybe it'll be okay. Again, a 1x1 ribbing, 3 centimeters, and this one is actually a 6-inch leg because this one is for my son. My son loves knitted socks. He loves to come home and pop on a pair of knitted socks, and I think with this one you can see my slip stitch heel flap and my gusset. I have a really special technique that I learned from a Norwegian knitter, and not to have a hole here on your socks. I never have holes when I'm joining my heel and my gusset. I don't know if that's interesting to share, but I could share that in the future. It's a special technique when you're joining so that you don't have any holes. And I'm just knitting this long foot of my son. It's going to be quite long. He's grown really tall now, and his feet are quite long, and then I'll just keep knitting this in the morning in the forest until I get finished. What I wanted to share is that in my absence of vlogging, I have designed a measurement tool for the measuring of your sock. And there are lots of sock measuring tools out there, but what's unique about my tool, my design, is that it allows you to measure not only vertically as most sock rulers, but it also allows you to measure horizontally. And I didn't just design this in isolation. I designed it to actually complement my Selbu sock blockers. And what's really unique about my sock stick is that the sock blocker can be used in a different way by supporting the sock ruler. So when I am knitting the cuff, I just pop the cuff on, and then I can just slip my ruler in, and that provides the stability that you need to measure, to make sure you get your 3 centimeters and so forth. And then it just slips right into the blocker and allows you to get the correct, accurate length of the leg of your sock. And then when you're knitting along on the foot and you pop the sock onto the blocker, you're going to hold it like this, and then you're going to pop you see the design is exactly to the sock blocker. So I'm going to pop this in to the blocker, and it fits exactly into the sock blocker. And you can feel that the measurement is exactly at 0 centimeters because they line up. And then when you pop it in, I can just have the stability of holding the blocker and see that I am right at 16 centimeters. So you know that it is accurate when these are lined up, and then you can do a sturdy, accurate measurement. I also have other sock rulers, but I find them really frustrating. 1, because they're made of plastic, and 2, because they're so flimsy, and 3, because you are not able to really measure in 2 directions. So I make these sock sticks with the offcuts after I make the blockers. These blockers, mitten and sock, all come from the trees within my forest. And then we take the trees down to the local mill in Tonham, which is a village down the mountain, and they create the boards that I use to roughly cut out my selbu design, and then I hand finish them. It takes about 6 different sanding finishes, 3 by machine, 3 by hand, to complete a blocker. So when you order them, it does take me sometimes, well, usually 4 weeks, but there have been some times that an order might have taken me 6 weeks because there were several pairs. But anyway, they're fully sealed, they're fully conditioned, they slip right onto your socks, and they work in tandem with my selbu sock stick. So these have been really popular, and especially to customers that are coming back after buying the sock blockers, because as I say, they are designed to work in tandem accurately with your selbu sock blockers. So I also thought I would show you some of the other colorways in the collection. This is another, and what's really lovely is they show you the inspiration for the painting by Claude Monet, and they've basically lifted the colors from the painting to create. This one is one of the really subtle paintings. So that's that skein. And then this is one of the brighter colors when he was influenced by Cézanne. And you see it's from a flower painting, and you see what the sock is going to look like. I love this bright pop of gold. Here is another one. This is a famous painting. This is a beautiful colorway, and you see how the sock is going to look. Here's another bright, beautiful colorway. Really autumn inspired. I don't know if how that's gonna translate in this sunshine. And this one, the ball band has actually come off, probably because I've handled it too much. But this is one of his famous haystack paintings, and I adore this one. So I really love this collection. I'm just using it to take into the forest each morning, and I'm just going to continue knitting socks. When you open up the ball band, you get to see all of the paintings in the collection. So it's really lovely. So I'm really enjoying mornings with my Opal sock collection. I had such big ideas of knitting the whole collection during Easter, but then I got so excited about knitting a jumper. I can go ahead and show you that I was knitting a jumper out of this new book called Inspiring Norwegian knitting patterns. And this book is by Wenche Roald, and it is inspired by this book from 1929. And I'm going to refer to this book a couple of times today, but there is a jumper in this book that I knit during Easter. And my next vlog is going to be all about that jumper and all about this book. I also had the privilege of collaborating with the team at Husfliden in Trondheim to host Wenche here in Trondheim for one evening, and she presented the book to us, and I got my book signed. She wrote a lovely message inside, and I just want to really take time with this book. And also I designed a set of stitch markers and a beautiful brooch from the motif within this book. Within every page of this book is this little motif from 1929, and I designed a little collection in honor of Wenche's visit to Trondheim. You can also find that within my farm shop, but I shared it on that evening, and it was a really special evening because I have not left the farm really. I hadn't been away from my daughter or left the farm in maybe 4 months. So to get out and to be with other knitters and just have that evening was such an inspiration to me. So I want to really talk about that in my next vlog and show you my jumper and tell you about how I knit it, because the pattern in this book is fantastic, and I was able to really get a jumper that fit me because of changing my perspective about reading the pattern. And that is so important because I have knit so many jumpers that are too big and just don't fit properly. So I think that could be some really valuable information for those of you that love to knit jumpers like I do. So I want to move along now and just once again to talk about my knitting bag book. So as many of you know, or maybe you've seen my vlog about the knitting bag book, I'm going to come back to this in another vlog. I'm going to really focus on the knitting bag book because I told you that every morning after chores, really early in the morning, I head into the forest and I'm knitting socks. But I'm also recording in my knitting bag book. I don't ever begin my knitting until I have done some reflection in my knitting bag book. And this month, this is my knitting bag book. It's a little knitting bag book from Karina, who helped me get the sock yarn, and she so graciously sent me a knitting bag book for April. And I want to talk about how I have expanded my reflections, what I'm focused on now. And in my previous vlog, I kind of set up the basics of beginning a knitting bag book reflection, but I've expanded that now, and it might be interesting for other people to get your reflections started again. I just keep my knitting bag book always popped in to my knitting bag. I just pop it in there, and in that way I don't ever start my knitting without going through my reflections and recording them, and then I just start my knitting. The next thing I want to share is my crochet blanket. I just want to quickly share that because this blanket, like my knitting bag book, has just been a comfort to me since late November. I think I started it in December, but the idea was brewing in late November when everything sort of emerged about my daughter and her surgery and what we were going to be going through. I never was able to knit or crochet or create any kind of blanket or baby things for my own children. So I really wanted to create a crochet blanket, not only to comfort me in the making of it, but to give to my daughter during her hospital stays. So I've been crocheting along this blanket for several months now, and Emma Grace had her 20th birthday, and that's really the only time outside of the hospital that she's had it, but she slept with it at home. And I'm knitting it out of Legacy Fiber Arts mini skeins. Now, 2 years ago, I met Sue and Chelsea at Rhinebeck, and Sue was so gracious, and she brought me the advent calendar to Rhinebeck so that, there's no taxes and all of the shipping things. And Emma loves those. They just sit on my desk. I'm a person that really needs a lot of, I love aesthetics. And I have all sorts of little small things on my desk and in my farm shop just sitting around. And Emma always takes those. And she's asking me, what are you going to do with these? I love these so much. And some of them are sparkly. So I just knew that would be the perfect mini skein collection to start her blanket, her comfort blanket. And when I say comfort, I mean that it's also it has been a tremendous comfort to me. I'm not a crocheter, but there's something about the mechanics of crocheting that is so ritualistic and comforting. It's really been a savior to me through everything that we have been going through. So it's quite big now. It's really big now after months and months and months. But I was so fortunate that Sue and Chelsea helped me to get some more minis here in Norway, and now I have enough to create a really large blanket for her. I just continue as we go through the challenges, as we go through the therapy, as we go through all of the phases of this experience that she's having. I just keep crocheting on it. I just sit quietly and crochet on it and let everything unfold, and it's been so healing for me. So the reason for sharing the blanket really is that Marta, my friend Marta, and I will link to her podcast and also her username on Instagram. She has actually been inspired to knit a blanket for her daughter, and she has her own story. And we love stories. Stories are what I live for. So we just started expressing our stories, and then other people started telling their stories, and then Marta decided that we would have a knit along, that we would all share our stories. And I was just so inspired by that I wanted to design something in connection with her crochet along. And she made a hashtag called Crochet From Your Heart, and it's just perfect. I mean, everything that we do in knitting for other people is something that is really deep within us. It's so spiritual. I'm just constantly reflecting about Emma. I'm in a way meditating over her health and her well-being, and it is all inside me, in my heart. So I designed a little progress keeper. I mean, I don't know what tools crocheters use, but they should also have tools. And I designed this little progress keeper. It is the hashtag. It has a heart in the middle. Hopefully it'll focus without my face. And it says Crochet From Your Heart. And so I have sent a collection of these to Marta in England, and she's going to be sharing those with prizes. And I think that she said in her podcast that the crochet along will go for the coming year. So I know for me this is going to be months of a journey that I'll still be on with my daughter, her aftercare and all of that. And so I know that I'll be crocheting along with Marta throughout the along. So I'm excited. And if you're watching and you are a person that likes to crochet, I'll be putting these up in my farm shop soon. And Marta and I tried to think of the best way to do it, but I'll just put it up in my farm shop, and if you'd like to purchase one, I would be very happy to make you one. Again, they're all made by hand. The design is by me, and I hand sand them and I hand finish them, and I do all of the metal work on them so that they attach to your blanket and provide you that little bit of joy during the crocheting process. In relation to my crochet blanket, I get so frustrated with these little mini skein balls. I just get so frustrated. They unravel, and when they get smaller and you have all these scraps, and as I said, I'm a person that loves aesthetic things. I love little things around me, beautiful things. And so I just sat down sketching and thinking about how my daughter uses her embroidery threads, but those are made of plastic. And then I thought with the offcut from my Selbu accessories, I could go ahead and create a wooden bobbin for scraps of yarn. And so these are my Scrappy Minders. And Emma Grace actually drew this yarn ball for me. I don't know if you can see it. This thing really, it's face recognition. But anyway, these are my Scrappy Minders. When I get smaller scraps, then I just have these Scrappy Minders, and they hold little scraps of yarn, and then I can keep them out in a basket, and I can use it for waste yarn projects. I can use it for smaller crochet projects, and you can buy a set of these in my farm shop. Once again, they're made from the birch trees here on my farm. I hand sand them and I hand finish them with our bee butter. They're the perfect tool for a crocheter or knitter to save all of your scraps and use every bit of your wool. I also have a shawl on the needles. This is a wonderful knitting bag that Pinaguri and Mira made for me. This is one of her beautiful bags. She also sews knitting bags. It has one of my Selbu zipper pulls on it. Of course, it's perfect match, and she made this for me. I love this pop of purple. And there's my zipper pull, which is also in my farm shop. But she made me this beautiful bag, and I've helped her to translate patterns to English, and she's also a member of the Voltologa, so I've done a lot of work with them. And so I'm just keeping inside here. First of all, I'm keeping in a lotion bar from my friend Lori. I have a lotion bar in every one of my knitting bags. Lori makes these lotion bars. When you are a shepherd and work on the farm, and my hands are working with wood and sawdust and dirt and sheep, you just put a bit of that on, and it just melts within your hand lightly, and this is how I keep my hands smooth and ready to knit. So Lori sells her lotion bars. It's just to contact her, and I'll also put a link to her below on Instagram, and I highly recommend a lotion bar in your bag. So I am knitting the Hipster Shawl once again. I haven't come any farther on it because I was knitting my jumper. But I knit this for a friend whose father passed away. She heard the news that her father passed away at school. And the same thing happened to me. I was called out of the classroom, and I was told that my father passed away, and it, because my family is in the United States, and that's a special experience. So I just wanted to reach out to her. I'm not really good with those sorts of things, so I know that a shawl can replace a hug and can really say a lot of things that words just cannot convey. So I knit her this exact shawl in this exact colorway. This is the Hipster Shawl. This is such a fun shawl to knit. It actually has a progress keeper of the design from, this is my progress keeper design from this book. This is called Ringdans set. And it is knit out of a stash yarn that I had. It's knit out of Madeline Tosh Merino DK. This is the worn blue jean color, and I think I had 6 skeins of this, and I knit her shawl, and I loved it so much. It was so hard to, it wasn't hard to give away, but it was hard to give away because I loved it so very much. And so I just set about knitting it again, and I'm going to get back to knitting some rows on this and hopefully finish it up maybe this week. I really love the Hipster Shawl. It's simple, and yet you come to parts where there's a really cool design element in it. You see this design element, and the way that is knit. Is that the back? Yeah, here's the front. The way that's constructed is so cool. It's just so engaging. And this becomes quite a large shawl, and then it has fringe on the bottom of it. I know I added fringe to my friends, and you can see that photo down on my feed if you're interested. And I've taken several photographs of it on my feed on Instagram. I was talking about how beautiful the weather is. We just turned our Primstav calendar. In Norway we have medieval calendars, and they tell the special things that happen throughout the year on them. It doesn't matter, when something happens. These things stay on the day that they are. And I've been working on this design for over a year and had hoped to launch it at Mitten Day. I'll show you why I wanted to launch it on Mitten Day, but this was a very intricate design. It took a lot of research. It's quite a simple thing. It's simplistic in its beauty, but it took a long time to get this design finished. But these are my Primstav brooches, and a Primstav is, as I say, it's a perpetual calendar, and it's really long, and it hangs on the wall. In most Norwegians I know have one, and they're handmade, and these symbols are medieval symbols. And so I researched all the symbols and what they meant, and of course I only had a small space, so I chose the symbols that I thought were the most interesting and the most meaningful. We just turned to summertime, so at the top of this Primstav is the sun, because that's the center of everything for us, the 24-hour daylight, land of the midnight sun. And then the first thing is the pine tree, and that just symbolizes the awakening of the forest and so forth. And then I've got just the different symbols down it, like when the bears wake up, and the St. Olav's days in Trondheim, and then on Mitten Day, the first day that you turn it over, is the day that you get all of your woolen things out and make them ready for winter. And I've got the Christmas horn, and I've got the cathedral, and so many different symbols. And I really should, if you're interested, I should make a vlog just about the symbols on these brooches. Now, you can wear them on a shawl. I don't have it on today because of the styling of my shawl that I'm wearing today, but they are so beautiful on a coat lapel, like on a jacket. And I wear mine mostly there. And if I've got a really big shawl that wraps around, then it looks beautiful on those shawls. So those are my Primstav brooches, and you can find those in my farm shop. And you can do fascinating research about the Primstav, the medieval calendar that we use here in Norway. And each day has some kind of history or something about the weather, and it's one of my favorite objects that I've ever owned here in Norway. I received mine in the year 2000 as a millennial gift. So now I just want to move along to a little bit about my farm. My farm has been certified for 1 year now. I just can't believe it that a whole year has passed. I can't believe that my lambs are a year old and not considered lambs anymore. So I have actually been operating under my grants, under my a little project, despite all of my setbacks, for 1 year. And I'm really looking forward to expanding my flock. My mentor farm is in lambing, full lambing now, and there's the possibility that I will be bringing home some additional members of my flock very soon, and of course that'll be an exciting vlog. And I'll share some of that news on Instagram as it happens, but a lot to talk about there. I've also shorn the sheep again after a lot of work in the winter. I wanted to, a lot of times the spring clip is really not at a standard that you can make yarn out of. It's usually used for harder spinning projects, not just gråtrundersau. I just mean in general in Norway. It's usually your autumn clip after the sheep have been outside in the summertime, and you get that beautiful yarn. But I have had my sheep out all winter. I have mucked up. It's back-breaking work, but it's been so worth it, because just this week I have shorn the sheep. I managed to do 2 of them myself, and not the biggest one though. I had to have a bit of help. I'm possibly going to put a video in here. I borrow the equipment right now, but hopefully I'll be able to through my farm shop and everything, I'll be able to afford my own equipment maybe for autumn. And we shared all 3 of them and their fleeces. I'm going to have a whole vlog very soon. I'm going to lay out all the fleeces and let you see the beautiful 3 colors of the first Selbuvalted in this region of Norway. I did share a picture on Instagram. If you're interested, you can see the light, the medium, and the dark grays. I've got a lot of sorting to do, and I want to make sure that it's all clean. In Norway, when you're shearing, you skirt as you shear. That's a little different than what I did in England and in New Zealand. But we skirted as we were shearing, so there's not a lot of skirting to do. So that's exciting. But what's truly exciting is that in honor of my farm, the 1 year anniversary, and also in celebration of the year to come, I have been working with my Norwegian friend Anita. She lives in Trondheim. She's a knitwear designer. I have been working with her to create a mitten pattern just for my farm. It's meant to reflect the design of my mitten blocker. As you know, this is a Selbu style mitten blocker, and this is the open star Selbu design. And again, just like my sock blockers, these are made from the trees right here in our mountain forest. The mill is in the village just down the mountain. It's all done locally. Bees, sanding, everything is by hand. And these designs came out just over a year ago. That was in January. Then my farm was certified. Then the lambs arrived. And I just wanted to commemorate that. And Anita and I were working on several projects, and she is really great at interpreting an idea. And I'm not a knitwear designer. I consider myself an artist. I consider myself a designer, but when it comes to knitting patterns, I just haven't, I don't have the spatial awareness yet. Maybe one day, but right now I really love collaborating with other people. So Anita took the idea of my farm and the idea of my Selbu blockers, and she created a mitten called the Little Farm Mitten, or Gårdsvolten, to celebrate this year on my farm. I have shared them a little bit on Instagram. The pattern is live on Ravelry. These are the mittens, and you see that they reflect the open pattern of my blockers. They reflect a design within the old from 1929. We were actually planning for this event, and we're really inspired by this book from 1929. And you know, I put hashtags on all of my posts on Instagram. I think it's so fun to have my own hashtag Little Farm and 3 bags full and so forth. So we incorporated this hashtag pattern, which also represents like fencing for a farm. So Anita created this design, and I've translated it, helped to translate so that we have it in Norwegian and in English. It has the Selbu shape. It has the 2 open stars reflecting from the Selbu blockers. It has the hashtag design, and then the cuff is really the only thing that is a little bit different. It is a patterned cuff. I wanted these mittens to be everyday mittens. I didn't want them to be too fancy. I wanted them to be able to be used to do chores in the early morning, to, you know, sometimes when I'm knitting Selbu vaulted, you know, they're just so fine that you don't want to wear them when you're doing chores or outdoor work, or but these, I wanted a simple cuff that would keep you warm, keep out the air and so forth, and I wanted it to reflect the pattern of the farm buildings in Norway. So it's a little bit easier to see on this yellow one that is sort of this is the color of Easter in Norway. So we have the traditional black and white, where the black is in the background so that you can use them every day and they won't get dirty and you don't worry about that. You can see more clearly the pattern, the building. These are the panel boards used to build farm buildings here in Norway. You can see them on all of the buildings, the barn, the dollhouse, the farmhouse, the drying house, my studio. So we wanted that. We wanted a cuff that would really be warm, and yet you could use these every day. And you see how the color changes them. The color can make them seem very different. So what's really lovely is there's no gender to these mittens. They can be worn by a man as well as a woman. And the only thing you do is that you'll change the hilsen, the message on the thumb, to be a farm girl or a farm boy. The other thing is that on the palm of the mitten, the palm looks quite intricate. We also chose a motif from the book that I've shown you. But this is one of the most basic palm designs. And by that I mean it's a beginner's mitten. This mitten is perfect for a beginner. If you're wanting to increase your skills of Selbuvalter knitting, this is the perfect mitten to do it. Because the more intricate the palm is, the easier it is to knit. That's kind of, people don't really get that. They think, oh, that's too intricate for me. But the more you have here, the easier it is because you don't carry any floats. There is one row on each side of this motif where you do carry floats, but other than that, this one is just a simple, you just memorize the little pattern and you're good to go. The other thing that's really lovely about Anita's designs is in most selbuvåtid patterns you only get one thumb. So sometimes the thumb can flow into the palm and sometimes on one of the hands, and on the other hand it doesn't. So Anita has created 2 thumb charts so that the connection between the thumb and the palm is seamless, and that just makes them lovely. I have been using these to get hay for the sheep, to get the water, to get their feed. I've just been using these a lot. They're perfect. They're perfect for on the go. Even if you live in the city, you could just wear them as everyday mittens. They would be beautiful in a basket to greet people that come on a visit, and maybe you take a walk in the forest together. I'm just thrilled about it, and I am so grateful and blessed to have my friend Anita working with me. And we have some other mitten designs coming up that I can't wait to show you. Of course, they're Anita's designs, but I'll be helping her to translate them so that they can be used in English or Norwegian. We have a really exciting one coming up in May. You can find the Little Farm Mittens in English and in Norwegian on Ravelry. You can buy that pattern there, and you'll be supporting both of us, which is so lovely. We really appreciate that. Now, to close up the idea of the mittens, I am going to be teaching an e-course, an online mitten course, and we're going to break down the selbuvåtid and knit it together. So if you are interested in really understanding how to knit selbuvåtid right from this region where I live, if you're interested in increasing your knowledge and your skill of knitting these, I've told many stories of selbuvåtid mittens based on the selbuvåtid book. We're going to get that book out again. But I've just told, I've not really broken it down and taught. And I get lots of emails. I actually developed this course based on all of the questions that I get, especially when I was sharing that book. I've kept all of those emails and I've developed this course. So I know lots of tips, I know lots of tricks, and I want to develop a little e-course together with you. So we're going to learn about several different cuffs, and then you can choose the one that you want to knit, like for your homework. And it's going to be kind of, I'm going to use this pattern as a basis, so you can start one of these cuffs, and then we can do another cuff and make it a little different, and then we can do the women's cuff, the most intricate cuff. And then I'm going to teach you about the thumb gusset and the tips and tricks there. I'm going to teach you about the side stitches and how to keep them from pulling on your knitting needles. This is some of the questions that I get. We're going to go right through the knitting of the palm and the overflatte, the top of the hand, and you'll learn a really easy way to remember the decreases at the top. It doesn't matter what pattern you use, you're going to do this top in the same way. And it's like the Kitchener stitch, you just have to learn that. So if you are interested in the e-course that I have developed, I'm right at the finishing up all the coursework and the materials that you're going to get. If you're interested, go ahead and take contact with me, and then I can kind of know how many people there are going to be. You're going to have my support through the whole course. It'll be interactive. You'll have access to the videos as often as you need to play them. I'll be teaching, but I'll also be recording over to visually demonstrate. And I've been asked to teach a mitten course in several different places, and so far, just because of my situation, I haven't had the opportunity, but I'm hoping to really develop this course for people that would like to do it online. So it has been wonderful to be back again, to know that I'm going to be able to be consistent for the first time without juggling everything. And I'm going to be able to tell stories from my farm again. One of the most exciting things I forgot to mention is that in each of my vlogs, I'm going to have a natural dyeing segment. At the moment, I am building my outdoor natural dye kitchen. And the other thing that I get so many questions about is the natural dyeing process. Because of the past year and learning and exploring, and I just didn't feel that it was right for me to answer those questions or to share that knowledge. I was learning myself, I was exploring. But now that a whole year is behind me, I've developed my own recipes, I use mountain water. I feel like I'm in a place now where I can really teach and I can really share to those of you that are interested in trying. Now, my perspective is only from your own garden, what you can collect right around you. So look forward to sharing that with you in my upcoming vlogs. Thank you for joining me today. I hope that this will be interesting for you. You can always contact me with questions or ideas. And at the end of this vlog, you'll see my social media page where you can do just that. Until next time, I wish you reflecting time, making time, and joyous spring or autumn.